There's something sitting heavy in the energy today. I want you to notice it before we even begin, that feeling you've been carrying around, the one that doesn't quite have a name yet. It's not exactly sadness. It's not exactly anger. It's more like a knowing. A quiet, persistent knowing that something hasn't been right, and that no matter how many times you've tried to talk yourself out of it, your gut keeps pulling you back to the same place. Back to the same question. Back to the same person. If you're here today, I think part of you already knows what this reading is going to touch on. And I also think part of you has been hoping someone would finally say it out loud, would finally validate what you've been sensing beneath the surface of things. So I want you to settle in. Take a breath. Because what's coming through in this energy is layered, and it deserves to be held carefully. This is a collective reading, so take what resonates and gently release what doesn't. But I have a feeling more is going to land than you might expect. Let me tell you what I'm sensing first, before we even get into the cards, because the energy that walked in with this reading is striking. There's a weight here. A very specific kind of weight, the kind that comes not from something that just happened, but from something you've been carrying for a while. The weight of slowly realizing that what you were told and what was actually true weren't the same thing. That's a particular kind of grief, isn't it? Because it's not just the loss of the thing itself. It's the loss of the version of events you believed in. The story you told yourself because you needed it to make sense. And here's what's interesting, this energy isn't dark. It feels heavy, yes, but there's something almost luminous underneath it. Like someone who's been standing in a dim room for a long time and is only now beginning to notice the light coming in under the door. That's where you are. You're right at that threshold. There's something that keeps coming forward about a truth that's been withheld. Not a small thing, not a forgotten detail or an innocent omission. This feels like something deliberate. Something protected. And what I'm picking up is that on some level, you've known. You haven't had the full picture, but your energy, your instinct, your body, that part of you that operates beneath conscious thought, has been receiving the signal for a long time. You've felt it in the pauses. In the way certain topics get redirected. In the almost too careful way someone presents themselves to you. Does this feel familiar? That sense of reaching towards something and finding the conversation subtly shifted before you could quite get there? Your energy has been doing something remarkable through all of this. And I mean this, it's been exposing the truth even without your full conscious participation. People cannot maintain their masks indefinitely around someone who is energetically attuned, and you are. Whatever you've been picking up on, trust it. Because what's showing up here suggests that the cracks in the story are widening. Things that were hidden are becoming visible. Not through a dramatic confrontation necessarily, but through the slow, inevitable unraveling that happens when someone tries to sustain something false over a long period of time. It's exhausting, carrying a lie. And exhaustion shows. Now there's this other thread coming through, and it's tender. So I want to approach it gently. This involves someone who loves you, or who has loved you, in a way they never fully honored. There's a card here that I keep coming back to, and the feeling attached to it is almost aching. Because it's not about someone who was incapable of love. It's about someone who took that love for granted so completely that they only began to understand its value when they felt its absence. And by then, so much had already shifted. Have you ever given yourself so fully to something or someone that you almost lost track of where they ended and you began? That kind of love, the devoted, consistent, quietly sacrificial kind, is exactly what this energy is reflecting back. You were that for someone. You showed up in ways that probably weren't even acknowledged in real time. You held space, you offered patience, you kept choosing them even when choosing them cost you something. And they let you. That's the painful part. They let you pour and pour without ever really asking whether you were okay. without registering what it looked like to be on the receiving end of your love and take it as simply available, constant, a given. This is someone who didn't realize what they had. Or, and this is the more complicated truth, they knew on some level, and chose comfort over acknowledgement. Because if you acknowledge how much someone is giving you, then you have a responsibility to give back. And that felt too demanding, too risky, too much of a departure from the dynamic they'd grown used to. I'm hearing something like, I thought she'd always be there. I thought he'd always wait. There's that assumption. That quiet, terrible assumption that your presence in their life was permanent and unconditional no matter how they behaved within it. And you weren't a fool for loving that way. I want to be clear about that. Your capacity for devotion is not a character flaw. But it was taken advantage of, even if not always consciously, even if not always cruelly. The effect was the same. Let me shift into something that's coming through very strongly now, because this energy is vivid. There's a version of you that this person misses. Not necessarily the you that exists right now, actually, I'd say definitely not the current version of you, because the you that's here today is wiser, more boundaried, more aligned with your own truth. The version they miss is an earlier you. The you that was more available, more accommodating. The you that asked fewer questions and expected less in return. And I want you to sit with the complexity of that for a moment, because it can feel flattering to be missed, but the context matters enormously. They don't miss you because you were your best self in that version. They miss you because you were easier to have around. Because you didn't yet see what you now see. Because the dynamic worked for them in a way that it no longer does. This is interesting, actually, the energy around this feels almost nostalgic on their end, but it's a self-serving nostalgia. They're romanticizing a time when they could receive without reciprocating. When they could exist in a relationship, romantic, friendship, familial, whatever this connection is for you, without being truly accountable. Do you notice how the people in our lives who took the most from us are often the ones most pained by our growth? It's because our growth disrupts the arrangement they'd settled into. Your awakening is an inconvenience to someone who benefited from your sleep. That's a hard thing to hold. Because you might love this person. You might still want things to be different. But recognizing the mechanics of what was happening is part of how you step fully into your power, and that's what this reading keeps insisting on. Your power. The fact that it has been, all along, the very thing this person has been both drawn to and threatened by. There's a moment I keep being pulled toward. A specific kind of moment, one where a choice was made. Or rather, one where the right choice was available, visible, and not taken. I think you know what I'm referring to, even if you've tried not to think about it too directly. There was a moment, maybe there were several, where this person could have chosen you. Genuinely, fully, without reservation. Where the situation called for them to step up, to show up, to say, you matter more to me than my comfort, my ego, my fear. And they didn't. They chose something else. Safety, maybe. Or avoidance. Or someone else entirely. Or just the path of least resistance. And what I feel around you in relation to that moment is something you might not have given yourself full permission to acknowledge yet. There's grief there, yes, but underneath the grief there's something sharper. There's the memory of standing there in that moment, knowing on some level what was happening, and choosing to minimize it. To rationalize it. To find a way to make it okay, so that you didn't have to feel the full weight of being unchosen. Because being unchosen by someone you love is one of the most quietly devastating things a person can experience. It doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always come with a clear ending. Sometimes it looks like a conversation that went sideways and never got repaired. A moment of vulnerability that was met with deflection. A time you needed someone and discovered, in the stillness of their absence, exactly where you stood. You deserve to be chosen in that moment. I want to say that plainly. Whatever story they told themselves, whatever justification was layered over it, you deserve to be chosen, and something in you has never fully let go of the ache of that. The energy is very clear on this. That moment was the turning point. Not just in the relationship, but in you. Something shifted in how you saw things after that, even if you didn't name it at the time. Now I want to talk about the silence, because it's incredibly present in this reading. There's a silence that keeps surfacing, not the comfortable silence of two people who know each other well, but the heavy, loaded silence of things unsaid. Words that live in someone's chest and never make it to their mouth. Truths that have been held back, swallowed down, locked away. On their side, there's a silence that speaks volumes. This person, whoever this is for you, has something they haven't said. Maybe something they've convinced themselves they can't say. Maybe something they believe would change everything if it came out. And so they've chosen the silence. They've maintained the silence because it feels safer, because speaking the truth would require them to face what the truth means about how they've behaved, about what they've done or not done. But silence has texture. It has weight. It fills a room differently than presence does. And you've been feeling it, that particular quality of being near someone who is managing a secret, managing an unspoken reality. The way conversations stay in the shallows. The way certain questions get a response that technically answers but emotionally deflects. The way you can be with someone and still feel profoundly alone. The energy around this silence is. I want to say it feels like it's getting harder to maintain. There's a pressure building. Secrets have a kind of structural integrity, and when that integrity begins to fail, when the lie or the omission or the hidden truth starts to cost more to hold than it would to release, that's when things start to surface. Sometimes messily. Sometimes all at once. Something is about to become harder to ignore. Either through something they say, or something they do, or simply through the continued clarity of your own perception cutting through what they've constructed. You're not imagining any of this. I feel compelled to say that again, you are not imagining this. There's also a memory that keeps coming forward in this energy, and it's theirs, not yours. It belongs to this person on the other side of this reading, and it's something they return to. Something that won't leave them alone. It might be a specific moment with you. A look. A conversation. Something you said that lodged in them in a way they didn't anticipate. Or it might be the memory of who you were to them at your most genuine, your most open, before things got complicated, before the dynamic shifted, before you started protecting yourself in the ways you've since learned to do. This memory won't fade for them. And there's something almost poetic and also a little uncomfortable about that, because they are sitting with the very thing they didn't fight for when they had the chance. They are haunted by what they failed to honor while it was present and available. That's a particular kind of consequence, and it's playing out in ways they probably don't fully understand. It shows up as restlessness. As comparison, comparing current situations, current connections, to the quality of what they had with you and finding everything else slightly less. As an inability to be fully present in their life right now because something in the past is unresolved. They carry you. Even if they would never say so. Even if they've constructed an entire narrative in which they've moved on or in which things ended for good reasons. Something doesn't let go. And I want to ask you, not to spark hope necessarily, but to genuinely invite reflection. What do you want to do with that knowledge? Because this reading isn't about them. It's ultimately about you. It's about what you deserve, what you're worth, what you do with the truth as it continues to reveal itself. The energy changes here, and I want to name that shift because it's significant. Up until now, we've been in the territory of what happened, of what was withheld, of wounds and unspoken things and moments that didn't go the way they should have. That territory is real and it deserves to be honored. Your experience is valid. The grief is valid. The anger, if there is any, the quiet, dignified anger of someone who was not treated with the care they deserved, that is also completely valid. But there's something else present in this energy now. Something that feels like a dawning. Like the first moment of morning, when the sky is still dark but you can sense that the dark has already peaked, that the turning has already happened even if the light isn't fully visible yet. There is a version of you that is coming into focus, not the version this person misses, not the version that was available and accommodating beyond what was healthy, but a version of you that has been shaped by everything this experience put you through. And here's what I want you to hear. That version of you is powerful in a way the earlier version wasn't. Because it's rooted. It's discerning. It knows things now that it didn't know before, not just about this person or this situation, but about yourself, about what you will and won't accept, about what genuine love and genuine respect actually look and feel like, about how to read the energy of a situation before you're in too deep. You didn't come through this unchanged. But unchanged would not have served you. I'm going to share something that keeps coming through intuitively, because it feels important. The truth that has been hidden from you, whatever specific form it takes in your situation, is not something that will stay hidden. That's what keeps coming forward, over and over. Your energy, combined with the simple unsustainability of what has been constructed, is working like a kind of pressure system. Truth seeks release. It moves toward the surface. It finds the cracks and it seeps through. And I don't think you need to force anything. I don't think you need to confront or demand or go digging in places that feel unsafe for you. What I'm sensing is that the revealing will happen, is already happening, and your role is less about uncovering it and more about deciding what to do when it lands fully in front of you. About knowing your own answer before the question becomes unavoidable. Because when the full truth becomes visible, and I feel very confident in saying when, not if, you will have a choice to make. About what this means. About what you want your life to look like moving forward. About whether this is something you can incorporate and rebuild around, or whether this is the confirmation of what you've already, quietly, known for a while. Preparation isn't pessimism. Knowing yourself well enough to make the right choice when the moment comes, that's wisdom. And you're building it right now, in this quiet, in this turning inward, in the very act of seeking clarity about what you're feeling. For anyone in this collective who has been second-guessing themselves, who has been made to feel overly sensitive, too reactive, too much, I want to speak directly to that for a moment. Because this energy is very clear, you are not too much. You have not been imagining things. The self-doubt you feel is not a reflection of your instincts being wrong, it's a reflection of being around someone whose investment in the story staying intact has at times required them to redirect your perception. That's a form of something worth naming. When someone benefits from you not trusting yourself, when it serves them for you to stay uncertain, to stay questioning, to stay slightly off balance, that is a dynamic worth examining. Not with anger, but with clear eyes. With the part of you that knows how to separate what's true from what's been convenient for someone else. You have always had good instincts. The evidence of that is everywhere in this reading, in the weight of realization that's been building, in the way you've sensed the silence, in the way you've kept returning to the same questions because something in you knew the surface answers weren't the whole truth. Trust yourself. Trust the knowing. It has been right all along. As we come toward the end of this energy, and I say that gently, because I don't want to rush past what's still sitting here, I want to leave you with something that feels true at the deepest level of what came through today. You are at a threshold. A genuine one. Not a metaphorical threshold or a spiritual abstraction, but a real, tangible moment of standing between what has been and what is becoming. The version of you that existed before this awareness is behind you. The version of you that carries this awareness forward, that knows what you now know, that has felt what you've felt, that has loved as deeply as you've loved and had that love not fully honored, that version is the one stepping into whatever comes next. And what comes next is not defined by this person. It is not defined by what they withheld, what they failed to choose, what they missed. Their chapter in your story, however long it has been, however much space it has taken up, is one part of a much larger narrative. A narrative in which you are the main character. In which the realizations you're coming into right now are the turning point, not the ending. There is something waiting for you on the other side of this clarity. Something that will feel different from what you've been in, lighter, more honest, more mutual. A connection or a chapter of your life in which you don't have to wonder, don't have to translate silences, don't have to dim yourself to maintain a dynamic that was never fully balanced. That is not a fantasy. That is simply what becomes available to you when you stop pouring yourself into spaces that cannot hold you. You deserve to be held. Fully. With the same care and consistency you have always offered others. The energy keeps coming back to this, and I think it's the message at the heart of everything today. The truth that was kept from you was never really able to stay hidden, because you carry a light that makes secrets difficult to sustain. You always have. And that same light is what will guide you forward, into the clarity, into the alignment, into the version of your life that has been waiting patiently for you to arrive. Take a breath. Let yourself feel what this stirred. And know that whatever is unfolding, you are not alone in it, you are walking toward something, and what you're walking toward is worth every step of the journey that brought you here. Thank you for being here. Take what resonated and honor your own knowing.